Hello, friends. Welcome to Nehruvian. And my name is Utkarsh Mishra, and I am associated with this page for the past several years. Uh, with me is Aditya Krishna, the sole admin of this page, and all the content that you see on this page is he is single-handedly responsible for it. As you know, it's May 27, the death anniversary of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. It's been 61 years since his demise, and we found this occasion apt to begin our new series, Nehru Darshan. It was Aditya's idea, and we thought that we would just discuss about Nehruvian philosophy and his ideas, how he shaped modern India, and so today, in the first episode of this series, we would like to talk about how foreign policy of independent India was shaped under prime ministership of Pandit Nehru. And we are talking about foreign policy because I think it's a trending discussion right now. So Aditya, tell me, what is your understanding of the foreign policy of independent India? India was when India got its independence, the world was divided into two major blocks. The Cold War was going on, as we know, and there was, on one side there was Soviet Union, on the other side there was the United States, and a, both the blocks wanted India to join them. And in fact, the United States was of the opinion that it would be more appropriate for India being a democracy. Uh, it would be more appropriate for India to join their bloc. It was a tough decision, and India needed help from both the United States and the USSR, and we'll see subsequently that how uh, Pandit Nehru managed to get help from both these blocs. In fact, how the policy of non-alignment gave India a leverage to be a mediator between both these powers. So, first, tell me, what is your understanding of
Uh,
foreign policy of independent India?
First of all, what I think about that is the foreign policy of India was shaped during the freedom struggle, and Nehru was the main brain behind uh, shaping India's foreign policy. In the Congress, it was always said that among when it comes to foreign policy, two people had a worldview. One was Jawaharlal Nehru, and other was Subhash Chandra Bose. Uh, Nehru was called uh, Nehru was called the most internationalist among the nationalists. In fact, there is an interesting thing that Jawaharlal Nehru wrote glimpses of world history before he wrote Discovery of India. So, in this some sense, he was more of an international. He became an internationalist before he was having an idea about the in India and Indian people. So, I think that Nehru was very actively involved in shaping how India would shape its foreign policy, right from the attending the Brussels conference in the mid 20s, and after that he had a definite idea over how India should align itself in terms of going with the Axis or with the Allied powers or have its own voice. And the freedom of India in particular was seen as many as the first step towards decolonization in the world. And Nehru was totally aware of it. So the freedom of India itself was a highlight, freedom of India itself was a highlight. And most of the countries were seeing independence of India as a uh, pathway that their independence could also be achieved. So non-alignment uh, of the non-alignment of Nehru was came much later. The first and the principle behind Nehru's foreign policy, organization of the African and uh, Asian countries. So if you if you would quite aptly remember that Nehru conducted the first Asian Relations Conference in 1948. So, in some way, India was leading the torch of decolonization from the very start of the independence. And then you have to understand the world at that time. After the World War, the world was divided in the communist bloc, and the other was the capitalist bloc, or the bloc led by the United States. So Nehru, if you could see that Nehru understood that, first of all, the primary objective of India's foreign policy was to secure its independent voice. If we would have gone to either of the blocks, that independence, that sovereignty, there was a high chance that it could have been sabotaged. So this was the primary concern about Nehru and all the leaders that were associated with India at that point of time. Secondly, I think that while going with the non-alignment, you have to understand that Nehru took the best from the both of the world. American talks about liberty a lot at that time, liberty, individual freedom. Nehru, with his democratic instinct, was very pro to have individual liberty among in Indian people. At the same time, Soviet Union talks about equality, and Nehru also emphasized a lot about equality. So, if I could bring there was a Constituent Assembly where Dr. Ambedkar points out that liberty and equality and fraternity are the trinity, golden trinity, and they can't be separated from each other. So Nehru, in a way, was trying to bring liberty, fraternity, and equality all through a common in foreign policy, and also the foreign policy has to be seen in economic light. India benefited by being non-aligned, by taking advantage. First, the Indian foreign policy, what some experts call it, that India had an enlightened self-interest. So the enlightened one was that India had a moral position with freedom movement under Gandhi, and also the self-interest was that India is the friend for all, and non-alignment is not a neutralist bloc. Nehru had said it quite often that non-alignment in any way is not a neutralist bloc. We will have an active involvement in the world politics, but we will not be seen as someone's going with some bloc. We will take the advantage of both the blocks and try to be a mediator for a world peace, because Nehru saw India had a role in the world, and India quite convincingly played that role in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, so I think it would be proper to discuss a few readings if people want to read about this. So, what I would suggest first is this book by Professor Michael Preacher. I think it's a fairly well-known book. It's called Nehru: A Political Biography, and I don't know if it's available as a hard copy in bookstores right now, but I think the PDF is very easily available online. So in this book there is a chapter called India and the World, where where the author develops the argument in favor of non-alignment, and in fact what he says is he lists a few pillars of Indian foreign policy, post-independent Indian foreign policy, and the first pillar is, as you said, is anti-colonialism. And it's not like that we will oppose the colonizing powers on every issue, but it is more about that all the nations of Asia and Africa, all the peoples of Asia and Africa, uh, who are fighting or who were fighting or who are still fighting against foreign rule, they should get their own voice. Their voices should be heard on the international forums. So the first pillar was anti-colonialism. The second pillar obviously was equal rights for all races, which I think the idea behind the Pan-Asianism or Afro-Asianism, whatever you call it, was that people of every race should be heard. I'll quote Professor Breacher here: a demand for full equality among all races, particularly recognition of equal rights for colored peoples the world over, and non-alignment with power blocks, not in a negative sense of neutralism. So this is very important because many people think that non-alignment was some kind of passive neutralism, and Nehru himself, a number of times he said that we are not, it's not about passivity. We want to play, and it's also not about creating a third force. In fact, Nehru himself, he was addressing the parliament in 1957, and he negated this theory of third force, that we are not creating a third force. We are just, and he preferred that we should be called as a group that is for peace. And his idea was that the more number of countries that are outside these two blocks, the greater the chance of the lesser the chance of war breaking out, another world war breaking out. Because as we saw that the cold in the Cold War, yeah, a lot of internal differences within within a particular countries were being exploited by these two blocks to fight their own war against each other. So that's why Nehru advocated that the more number of countries that are outside these two blocks, the lesser there is a chance, or the lesser is the chance for another world war breaking out. Third pillar, what he lists as Professor Breacher, he lists as mediation with a view to relaxing international tensions. At that time, India was the only bridge between these two uh, big blocks.
Martin Luther King had
Blocks.
also said that the
Yeah,
world needed a mediator,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Nehru, we saw that in form of Nehru.
yeah. And we saw that in the Korean War. I think it was the most prominent test of India's non-alignment, and it came in 1954 at a very peculiar time when India was dependent on aid from the United States and the USSR both. That first India voted in against North Korea, the Soviet Union backed North Korea, in the United Nations, identifying it as an aggressor. But when the North Korean forces were pushed behind the 36th parallel, and when General MacArthur of the United States, he was continuing with his I mean, he kept on going forward. India voted against the United States, recognizing that now they are the aggressor. We can see that it played a very balanced role in the Korean War. What do you have to say about it?
Uh, there is no point disagreeing with Michael Breacher. He points out very categorically, like what I was also saying was on the similar line only. But anti-colonialism was an important element of the Indian freedom struggle. We have to understand that the people of that time, for them, sovereignty was the most important thing. And you talked about the proxy war. In some way or the other, that proxy war that happened, that Nehru and all understood, could have undermined that sovereignty. So that was the basic underlining theme. And also, one has to understand that Nehru understood that freedom had come, but we are still dependent on those same powers for our economic interest. So, if we are not sovereign and independent in our thinking from the very start, sooner or the other, these forces will come back. So the fear was there among the, I won't say the fear, I would say the precaution was taken from by Nehru from the very start that this colonialism, if the Britain is going or the forces of the European power is going, uh, it is going for forever. They are not going to come back. There were prophecies that Germans will come back. There were prophecies that France will come back, and but Nehru, with his policies, made sure that we are totally in way sovereign and independent in real sense. Secondly, I would
In
like
fact,
to.
he was questioned again and again about India's sovereignty while remaining within the Commonwealth. And every time he said that we are not compromising on our sovereignty, we lead ourselves, and we are staying within the Commonwealth uh, for some particular benefits, but we are not going to sacrifice our sovereignty for this reason.
And also the element about the thing that India is one of the few countries where the smooth transition of power took place. That
Yeah.
After when India got independence, India had good relations with United Kingdom. So this is very rare when a colonial, I want you, colonial master, if you want to say that, and what they used to call that subject state had a fair relationship. It is not so much. It is not seen. Uh, it is a very rare phenomenon. And Winston Churchill had once written about it to Nehru that in spite we have jailed you, I did never see any hatred. Then Nehru replies that I've been trained by my master that not to fear and not to hate anyone. So India had a very good relationship with India. India thought under Nehru that they have a message for the world.
Yeah.
And the message was not being the leader of the world or Vishwa Guru, but the message was being Vishwa Bandhu, the friends of the world, and not only friends for, especially for the countries which have been deprived their voice. The colonialism, what actually did that they curtailed the voice of the large mass of the people. And one has to understand that Nehru was the first among the Asian leader who was dead against Eurocentrism. It is quite ironical today that Nehru is seen as someone who aligned himself with European thought, but Nehru actually challenged Eurocentrism more than any Asian leader of that time. Nehru talked about the Asia's unity, and Nehru thought that Nehru answered. Uh, Nehru said that in entire history, Asia has shown the light. Whether it's Buddha, whether it is Confucius, whether it is Mahavir, whether it is Prophet Muhammad, Jesus Christ, every one of them of the major religions in the world has originated in Asia. So Asia has shown the light to the world multiple times. And now, because of our own internal weaknesses, which Nehru talks about, Nehru never blames the other West. He talks about because our own internal weaknesses has cost us, has brought us here. But but this he because he was a very good student of history, so he understood that this time will also change, and the time will come when Asia will have a major role to play in the world politics. So Nehru was totally against the Eurocentric dominance of everything. And that's why in the underlining theme against colonialism, we also need to point out this particular theme too, that how he opposed Eurocentric view.
Yeah, in fact, I was reading his article from he wrote in 1927. So in that article, he is developing a foreign policy for uh, independent India, or the future foreign policy for an independent India. So he says that that naturally we would like to have very good relations with the countries of the East because we have a lot in common with them. And speaking in the parliament after independence, he said that India is interested in Asian countries more, even more than the rest of the world. So he was in favor of uh, good relations among all Asian countries. Obviously, a lot of people will point out that things didn't go very well with China, but I think it merits a separate video of its own, and it cannot be discussed as a part of one larger discussion. And maybe we will make a separate video on it, and we'll have an expert speaking on the Chinese affair rather than our limited understanding. Uh, but of course, I think the only point where Nehru was mistaken was he believed that there is not going to be a war between China and India.
I agree with that. I agree that China is a very complicated topic, and of course, we will in the future episodes of Nehru Darshan we will talk on this issue in quite a detail. But one thing that I want to point about the whole China thing, that of course that we lost the war and all those things are very important, but we have to also understand that there was a attempt from the West at that point of time that you should solve Kashmir issue because Pakistan can attack India also from at the same point of time. And Nehru said nothing doing. If if they attack us, we will fight from the both sides of the border. So he was totally against having he was totally against that the West should dictate us in our policy, or any power, for example, should dictate us in how we should have it. He was, in fact, this statement was, I found that in Atal Bihari Vajpayee's assessment of Nehru in Parliament. He says that there was a talk among the in the foreign policy circles that Pakistan could attack India, and the West wanted to Nehru to be little soft on Kashmir and something like that. But Nehru categorically opposed that this point of view, that if and he was ready to fight the borders. He was ready to defend the borders from the both the sides. So this point also should be remembered while when we discuss about the China, which I think many times gets overlooked. And also one has to point out how Nehru handled Goa under Portuguese control, and Portuguese was part of the NATO. So according to the rule of the NATO at that time, if one have a bad relations
Still,
with
yeah,
that
still,
country,
yeah.
the other
The treaty is like that, yeah.
other countries have to come to their
The whole
support.
block, yeah. That the whole block
Whole
will
block.
declare war
But
against any
but
aggressor.
Nehru handled it quite efficiently, and he's not given much credit about it.
Yeah, yeah. This apprehension, or rather effort to keep Western powers out of Kashmir affair was the motive behind how India reacted to the Hungarian affair. And yeah, when India opposed a proposal to send UN observers to conduct a UN controlled election in Hungary, it didn't want to set a precedent for Kashmir. And Professor Breacher also writes that uh, Nehru faces a lot of criticism for how India reacted to the Soviet invasion of Hungary. But in fact, Nehru had instructed Krishna Menon to abstain from
Yes.
yeah uh, that resolution. But what Krishna Menon did, he went ahead and he voted in favor of Soviet Union.
One final thing before we end this, I would like to talk about Kashmir from an international point of view. Nehru was wise enough to understand the geopolitical importance of Kashmir. That sometimes we overlook this point also. Sardar Patel, and rightly, I am not. One has to agree with that him also, because he wanted Hyderabad, because if we didn't have Hyderabad at that point of time, we would have the three hostile neighbors: East Pakistan, West Pakistan, Pakistan itself, and even if Hyderabad had joined Pakistan, we don't know, or an independent Hyderabad, all the three hostile neighbors from the three sides. So Patel had the understanding and the pragmatism to understand that our borders were not safe if the Hyderabad was given the independence. Nehru understood, on the other hand, the geopolitical importance of Kashmir. He thought that if Kashmir goes to Pakistan, it would become a base for the European powers, and Kashmir connected India to Afghanistan, to West Asia. So it was of a great geopolitical significance. So Nehru was very keen on Kashmir, and Patel was very keen on Hyderabad. Both were right in different ways, and ultimately we got both Kashmir and Hyderabad. People say that Nehru had an idealist foreign policy, but uh, what I found that Nehru was a liberal realist when it came to foreign policy.
Yeah. So I think on this note, we should wrap up our first episode, and hopefully we'll be bringing other episodes too soon. And thank you very much, Aditya, for this initiative. And hopefully we'll be able to continue this more regularly. Thank
Thank
you.
you.